when those two, dependent arising in the absence of inherent existence, seem to be contradictory.
Yes.
So, taking as examples mirror images and so forth. So, we're going to use a mirror image, or he uses a mirror image. Contemplate how they are, or how it is, non-contradictory as follows. Just as the image of a face is undeniably, nobody could deny this, an aggregate or a collection, the word in the Tibetan text is aggregate, in one common locus. Well, another word for common locus would be one location. I finally got a word. Just as an image of a face, or reflection of a face, is an aggregate in one location of what? Of two things. It's empty. You know, there's your image in front of you. And we all have an image in front of us here. A computer image. And that computer image is empty. I'm looking at my big nose. It's empty of a nose, of a big nose. Turn to the side. I don't know, is it that big? Yes. Sopa nods and says yes. It's up there with, what was that famous old actor that the elders of us know? Who used to, Jimmy Durante. He used to come out like this. He was known as the Schnoz.
The schnoz.
Oh my God. I shouldn't have introduced that one. I'm not up with Jimmy Durante. That guy, no matter how old he got, he could come out, and that was enough for him. He could just appear, and that was enough. No matter how old he was, he still could come out and appear on television. He was going way back to the, silent film days and before silent films, back in the vaudeville days, That guy had something. All right. But it's empty of a nose. That guy can't blow his nose. Right? Can't function as a nose. The guy I'm looking at. So it's empty. That's one meaning of empty. The Shravasti temple is not empty of monastics. It's not empty of monastics, right? That's another. It appears in sutra, in the Lankavatara Sutra. That word, the word empty, is used that way. And it said that's not what we mean when we philosophically talk about emptiness. That's not the kind of emptiness that we mean. So that's the common usage of empty and emptiness. Just as the image of so this computer image is empty of the eyes, ears. In Asia, my ears are much lauded. The earlobe is I've got a nice earlobe. But that earlobe really doesn't function that way, the image. Right? It's empty of earlobe. The image. Ears and so forth, as which it appears. There appears to be a nice earlobe there. My mother made fun of my number 2 brother, Jack, for having such huge ears. It really bothers him right up. He's 8, 9 years older than I am. And it bothers him to this day that she made so much fun of him for that. I want to take a tape measure and go measure his ears. I don't think they're as big as mine. I want to relieve him of his guilt. Though empty but as which it appears. So that's how it is. Though it doesn't say inherent existence, right? In the example. And is, so this is the other side of it. It's produced in dependence upon a face and a mirror. Two things. A face. If the face isn't there, if my face isn't there, it's not going to appear on the screen. I mean, really, you have to think of it this way. And when the face is there, when the face is in front of the mirror, it appears in the mirror or on the TV screen. Really, you have to, you have to stop and do this sort of stuff. And is destroyed when either of those conditions is not there. And I'm not going to remove my camera because I've got it balanced on a tower, and the tower easily will fall down if I try to balance it again on the tower. When either of those two conditions, face or mirror. You see, that's why I put these things in brackets. Face or mirror is absent. Similarly, it is not contradictory for a person also. Now here's the first thing. Not having inherent establishment. You see, something quite different is substituted for what's there in the example. Not even a tiny bit, not even a particle of what? Of inherent establishment. Now, inherent establishment doesn't have particles, doesn't have tiny bits. And instead of producing independence on the face and mirror, that sort of stuff, and is the accumulator of actions, the experiencer of effects, and is born in dependence upon former contaminated actions, afflictive emotions, and so forth. A lot of people don't want to say that. There's just some piece of garbage that's born, that appears somewhere. They don't want to make that much of a connection to the former lifetime. And there's a mere I that's the continuation of the mere I of the former lifetime. And it's born in dependence upon the former contaminated actions, afflictive emotions, and so forth of what was previous. So if you do come to, in the next lifetime, you can remember and be the continuation of the being in the former lifetime. If you don't come to, you're just a kid who has certain impulses, and you want to do this and you want to do that, and you're you're sometimes nice and you're sometimes awful. And as some mothers say, I look over at my kid and I've got no idea who this person is. And a lot of mothers have huge bonds with their children, and the children have huge bonds with their mothers, huge bonds. I've asked classes of, 100, 125 students who your best friends is, and we've developed a relationship, believe it or not, of over time, of a willingness to accept their questions, where the students will just pop up, interrupt me and ask questions, and students will say, my mother. I'm closest with my mother. And because I wasn't, at that age, I can remember from back when I was the closest with my mother, but it was like I wasn't at that age when I was lecturing at the University of Virginia. And thereon in my life, my mother was not my closest friend. I'd be shocked, and, their closest friend was their mother. And it was males, females, all sorts of people said that. So, they've developed and maintained very close relationships with their mother. Not me. But I did remember. But how many kids have said, I hate you? And have kicked and screamed and want to go away early on. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. So that's how the example is carried over to the exemplified. Contemplating this, you should train. How train in what? In the non-contradiction of appearance and emptiness. Such should be understood in all situations. This is profound. And whatever the level of understanding of emptiness is in the particular system, whether it is in the autonomy school or the consequence school, it's that type of emptiness. And whatever the emptiness is, in the consequence school, there are all sorts of levels within the consequence school. Whatever you can do, you can apply this. And I don't know if I don't see how this, I would think this type of teaching would be compatible in any of the schools of Buddhism. I don't know if it's taught in all of the schools. So there's something else in addition to this, in the consequent school, that we've been reading about, that's not in conflict with this, that doesn't put this down, that doesn't say this isn't needed. This is needed. This is lauded. And we must not make the mistake, oh, this is junior varsity. We need junior varsity. There's something somehow beyond this. But this is obviously fantastic. And we're now going to return, well, to where we diverted to make sure we understand something about this and try to practice it and never put it down, of course, because there's something more. And when we study the something more, and I'm repeating myself, there's one sentence that makes it look as if, well, that's just that, this illusion-like understanding, okay, that's that, but there's no but. If you can do this, wow. This is super wow. And if there's some super wow, okay, but you wouldn't want to set this aside if you are gaining some ground. We need to practice this, and if there's something else we can soak our minds into, that'll probably even help this. The quest for the best can't ruin wanting to jump to the height. Should not mean we crash and destroy. So, working up the meaning of this, Yang-jan-ga-way-lo-drö indeed explains in his instructions on the view that initially, when seeking the view, when trying to get at the view, one ascertains emptiness through the force of dependent arising. So, using dependent arising in this case as the reason, and afterwards, through the force of that meditative equipoise realizing emptiness. Now, we've just been talking about this. So this is the wrong view. And this is what we were reading. Yang-jan-ga-way-lo-drö makes the mistake of thinking that it's illusion-like appearance that's what's being talked about here with the mutual reinforcement. And this is what got us into getting out Tsong-kha-pa's description of illusion-like appearance. Dependent arisings dawn as like illusions in subsequent attainment. So you realize emptiness as much as you can, and you're realizing emptiness. Then you pay attention to dependent arisings, which dawn as like illusions, and that's just what we were talking about. And Gung-thang Kön-chog-tanpay-drön-me says, however, this does not contain a way of simultaneously avoiding the two extremes. Okay? He says, Yang-jan-ga-way-lo-drö is wrong. This illusion-like understanding is not what Tsong-kha-pa is talking about, where the two go as the meaning of each other. That's not what Tsong-kha-pa is talking about. Yang-jan-ga-way-lo-drö has got it wrong. And he should be saying, no matter how good it is, he should say, no matter how good it is, how wonderful it is, to realize dependent arisings as like illusions, that's not what Tsong-kha-pa is talking about here. And he says even autonomous assert that one should realize dependent arisings as like illusions. And that's really good that they do this. But autonomous have never understood what Tsong-kha-pa's talking about here, with the meaning where these two, the realization of emptiness, realization of dependent arising, go as the meaning of each other up there in the first paragraph. They just didn't get it. No matter how good it is to realize emptiness with their own meaning of emptiness, which is lesser than the meaning of the consequentialists anyway. You know, that's one problem they have. But the other problem they have is that they've not understood this the way those two mutually go as the meaning of each other. That's their other problem. Hence, therefore, Yang-jan-ga-way-lo-drö doesn't have anything to offer. Little to offer means doesn't have anything to offer toward bestowing understanding, giving us any understanding about this consequence school's uncommon assertion on the non-establishment of objects by way of their own entities. Not only that, but also about the two mutually going as the meaning of each other. And their failure comes because they don't have the consequence school's understanding of emptiness, this more subtle object of negation. So of course they couldn't put it together that the meaning of dependent arising could be the meaning of emptiness, and the meaning of emptiness could be the meaning of dependent arising. I approach this as if there were two problems, but it's really that the autonomous have two problems, but really they've got one problem. Their understanding of emptiness is not subtle enough so that it would open up how the meaning of dependent arising could be the meaning of emptiness, and the meaning of emptiness could be the meaning of dependent arising. So it ends up as really one problem.